What is your job and what does a typical day look like for you?
Well, my job was working for the Minnesota Department of Corrections. I worked there for 26 years. Typical day there is, it depends what job you're working in there, really, but a typical day in like a unit would be you go in, serve the offenders all their breakfast trays. You do security around first. Got to do security around first. Serve them all their trays, and then you start letting them out depending on what side you're on. One side's jobs, so they'll get out right after trays, and then they'll have open flag until they report for work. On the other side is more the bad guys. They will get out um, a quarter of flag at a time, so we have a little more control over them because they don't behave so well. So we'll do a quarter at a time, which will run. That'll run throughout the whole day. We'll do it right up until um, count time. We have a count. We'll run the flag, open flag. So during open flag, you're watching for any bad behaviors, and you still gotta get your security round in every hour. You gotta have a round, half hour on the shoe side. Every half hour, we have to do rounds. Make sure nothing's going on in all the rooms and blind spots and such. And then, if you make it through the flags and there's no fights going on, no nothing, then they would all be switched in. We'd count every one of them, and all the counts have the bubble has a set count in the bubble that you have to match. Once you do your count on in the out on the floor, the bubble will have a count of what it's supposed to be, and they have to match every day. And then after count clears through the whole facility, there's 4 units in there, and they all switch back to the unit for that. That's the stand-up count of the day. So that verifies that everybody's there and they're all their health is good, nothing's bad. So, but after the count clears, we then they would go to lunch, and that takes probably a good 2 hours. And then while they're out at lunch, you have to go follow them to lunch, watch them eat, then you have to follow them back, and then they all have to be switched in, and then you'll start your flag times again right up until the end of shift. Before the shift comes in, you'll switch them all into their cells, in whatever flags and such that you haven't got done. The next shift coming in, you'll brief them on what was done, what wasn't. If anybody missed one that has to be made up, brief them on accounts, brief them on special diets, everything. And then um, anything that happens throughout the day would have to be documented in an incident report if it did happen. Any medicals, there'd be medical emergencies, could be fights, it could be a hanging, could be, there's a lot of things that can happen in one day. There's days that I was lucky to get out of there alive. There's days that I saved 3 lives while I was there. But typically, a typical day without nothing happening, that was about it if you're working in a living unit.
Okay. What are the biggest challenges you face in your work?
Biggest. Well, I'll tell you a little story about that. When I went through the academy, they told us that we'd never be involved in a, more than likely, never be involved in a tornado, fires, hostage situations. What else happened? Um, or big riots. Within my first 3 years, when I worked at Lionel, I had it all. So the most stressful day for me was the hostage situation. There was a lady, I believe she was a touch older than I was, but she ended up making a long story very short. The guy snuck out of his room because at that prison, they're not locked in at night in that unit. Snuck out of his room, clunked her in the head, and then ended up acting like he was gonna walk out with her to go on like a what we call a medical writ, which means they would go out they would leave early in the morning, sometimes for going out for a surgery or whatever. But of course, once on the way down there, one of the sergeants seen him walking and saw the blood on her shirt from when he hit her and stuff, and he called the ICS. ICS is the code that goes off. There's 6 of us that respond to every code in there. We're like the police of the facility.
Mm.
And we'll respond and we'll take care of whatever it is going on in the prison. But there's also backup if needed. You could call for a B team, and then some more people would respond.
Okay.
But the most strenuous night was that hostage situation in my career.
What kind of education or training is required for your job?
You're required now to have a 2-year degree to get hired. But I think lately, because of um, 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 vacancies in the facility, um, they have pretty much done away with that. You have to pass an interview with the lieutenants, captains, and one of the admin people. And when you pass that, and then there'll be a background check and all that. And if you pass all that, then you'll be hired.
Okay. Did you need a degree or certifications to enter this career?
When I entered, it was a 2-year degree or 2 years experience in the same field. So I did 2 years in a private facility, and then I transferred to the state.
Okay.
That's how I got in.
Do you think this field will still be relevant or in demand in 10 to 20 years?
Yes, we'll more than likely have criminals all the time.
Yep. Do you work independently as part of a team or both?
Both. You work independently a lot of times, but when things go wrong in there, and then everything becomes more team oriented to take care of any incidents or health concerns or mental um, imbalance.
How much flexibility do you have in your job? Like schedule?
don't have much flexibility in our job. Um, it, when you gotta be there, you gotta be there. We do get, there's a lot of, it's all seniority based, but you do get a lot of vacation and you earn, every year you go up a little bit more. I think it was at 7.5 a paycheck when I left, in 4 hours a paycheck of sick time that I earned and that you'd take for vacation. But being there, being on time, all that, yes, you have to do that.
How do you handle stress or pressure in your role?
For many years, I worked out in the gym. You can't tell it nowadays, but many years I worked out in the gym. I had a routine of about hard workout for about 55 minutes with cardio first, and then um, vigorous weight training.
What inspired you to choose this career?
I believe it was one of the better jobs that I could apply for when I came back. We were down south in Kentucky. I came back to this area. It was one of the easier fields to get in when I arrived, so that's pretty much why I did it.
What do you wish you had known about your job when you were starting out?
Um, um, I wish I known that your own workers were not gonna always be professional in their job. Um, yeah, it's it's real hard to deal with staff. The offenders are easy. Dealing with staff, being a sergeant, I had 5 people under me, possibly more, depending if something happened or not. Anybody in my area, I'm their immediate supervisor. So,
What's the most surprising thing about your job that people might not know?
you might not make it home that day.
Yeah.
I don't think that's surprising, but it's very legit. If go into some situations with some of the bad criminals in there, if you got the wrong reaction, the wrong thing said, it could be as like the hostage situation that we had. It was the guy was going to get out in 7 days. It was a bad phone call from his girlfriend that he wanted to go out and fix right now that made him want to try to escape and do the things he did.
Dang. What's the best piece of career advice you've ever received?
When dealing with offenders, I learned from one of the veterans how to listen to an offender and listen and just talk with them. And when you do tell them you're going to do something for them, you do it. If you can't do it, you tell them you couldn't do it and that you try to get it tomorrow. you got to earn respect with those guys. It takes a while to get that, but once you get the respect of them and they know you're gonna be there, you know you're gonna be a solid guy, and then your life gets easy.
All right, that's it. Thanks.
Thank you.